Hey guys, welcome back to How to Roll Dice. I'm Josh, and feeling a little under the weather today. My 3-year-old son gave me a head cold, so feeling a bit blah. But I wanted to get you a quick video on this gloomy Monday morning, or at least it's gloomy here in New England where I live. And I wanted to talk quickly about how you shouldn't be judging books by their covers, or at least you shouldn't be judging board games by their boxes. But particularly in the case of board games, and I'm going to use these two games here as loose examples of this, you shouldn't even be judging a game by its contents, or at least not its contents presented to you by someone else. Now, I know this might be a bit weird coming to you from a channel that does a lot of board game reviews, which is basically just me giving you my opinion on whether or not I think you'll like a game. And I am going to do another video coming up soon as to exactly what I'm trying to achieve with my rating system. Some people think that my rating system or my review system, the numbers that I give you in a review, are like my take alone on a game, and in a sense they are, but that's not the objective that I'm trying to achieve with those numbers. A lot of the games that I've reviewed, I would give completely different rankings if it was just how I felt about the game, like purely where I would rank the game. Those numbers are meant to be sort of a representation of how I think most people would feel about the game. That's why I factor in things like, oh, if your group doesn't like confrontation, you might not like an American style game. Or if your group has a problem with accessibility, or you don't have somebody that can so easily interact with finicky game components, that might be a problem. It's not that my group doesn't like conflict. It's not like that I have anybody in particular in my group that would have trouble interacting with a fiddly game. It's that some groups will, and so I factor that in. So I'm trying to obtain more of an objective versus a subjective ranking so that most people can sort of use it as a guidance. Anyways, we'll go over that in another time. What I want to talk about with this whole idea that you can't trust a game's contents when they're being delivered to you by somebody else, so say a review, write-up online, you really do need to experience a game for yourself in order to determine whether or not you like it. And in the case that we're going to see here with Armageddon from the ground up, you can't even just read the rulebook yourself and determine whether or not you think you're going to like a game. You really do have to play it. So let's start over here with Great Western Trail, right? This is Great Western Trail 2nd edition. I'm going to treat it the same as 1st edition because they're basically the exact same game. Very few differences. Great Western Trail is a very highly rated game on Board Game Geek. I want to say it's top 20. It's very well reviewed by my favorite review channel, Shut Up and Sit Down. I have a friend in my close friend group who's a huge board gamer who says it's basically one of his favorite, if not his favorite board game of all time. Hi, Jackson, if you're watching. And all of my other friends that have played the game say that it's a great game. So I bought this game with sort of a high expectation. Now, sure, that could be part of the problem, but I never really let my expectations run away with, how I think a game is going to go. I always just want to try the game. And so sure, I came in with some hopes, but nothing wild. And having set up and played the game for the first time with my friends, some of which had played it already, I felt it was like, that was fine. I didn't really, that kind of was just like a whirlwind of stuff that blew by me. I don't feel like I experienced what I was supposed to experience there. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was having an off night. So we played it again the next week, and I felt the same way. I was like, I'm not really this isn't doing anything for me. It's just not popping. I'm not getting into the mood. I'm not feeling the theme. I'm not getting immersed. The mechanics are kind of like a little just overly crunchy and bland, and it's just a numbers game. And then we played it a 3rd time and a 4th time, and then I played it with some friends at my house, and I tried to run a teaching game. I've played it 5 or 6 different times, to the point where the last game where I played it, we actually stopped about an hour in because my friends were like, okay, you're clearly not having a good time. We appreciate you trying to teach us this game. Maybe we'll try it again another time. But let's just play something different. It's fine. You don't have to show us this game. And I felt bad because I want to get as many varying opinions on this game as I can to see if maybe I'm just missing something. But yeah, after 5 or 6 playthroughs, this game does nothing for me. Not a proper review. I'm going to do a proper review on it at some point. I'm certainly not throwing out a numbers score here, but I'm telling you, if it was just me and somebody asked you, hey, how do you like Great Western Trail? Not would you recommend it to other people, not what are its pros and cons in an objective way. How do you feel about the game? I don't like it. I will never pull this off by choice and play it with any people ever, unless they come over and they're like, hey, what's that? I'd love to try that. And then of course I would. But if somebody said, hey, Josh, what do you want to play right now? This is 0 out of 100 times going to be the answer. So that's Great Western Trail, a game that for all sort of like objective or all expected reasons, I should have liked and didn't. Then you have Armageddon over here. Armageddon from the ground up by Queen Games. And I should just for fun say that this is by Eggert Spiel. Is that the name of the publishing company? Yes. Interesting name. That's not the name I remember the publishing company having, but that's what I'm going to say because that's what's on the box. It's Alexander Pfister is actually the designer of the game. He also makes Maracaibo. So anywho, this is a game I thought I would like. I ended up not liking. Armageddon from the Ground Up by Queen Games is a game I had never heard of at all. We bought this game, or got this game, for free while making a purchase at Queen Games during Gen Con this past year, or a few months ago. And they basically said, you've made a large enough purchase that you get a game for free. And we walked over to a stack of games that they had, and we physically picked up the heaviest game, like just found the heaviest box and went, we'll take this one. And that was Armageddon from the Ground Up. I looked the game up when we got home. It is pretty low on the ratings as far as BoardGameGeek.com goes. It's somewhere around 1,500, maybe 1,300. So not a highly rated game at all. Leagues outside of the top 100. Not that that should be your sole judgment on a game, as is the kind of the point that I'm making right now. So bought the game, brought it home, sat on the shelf for about a month. I opened it up. I read the rule because Bryant wanted to play the game. I thought it looked cool, liked the theme. I read through the rule book, and after reading through the rule book, I thought, okay, this is a low ranking for a game. Like it's a poorly rated game. It's in the 1300s, around there, I want to say. I've now read the rule book, and the rule book sounds odd and clunky, and like there's no representation of theme in the game. It doesn't feel like you're playing through an apocalyptic, aftermath where you're trying to rebuild civilization in your own city with your own structures and your own survivors and scavenging for gear. None of that really comes through when you read the rule book. It feels like this weird auction bidding system where what you're bidding with, instead of being some kind of a currency, is actually the survivors that you have in the town, which is an odd way to use the mechanical component of survivors as currency in a bidding war against the other players to go scavenging or build structures or take various actions. So that seemed odd. And then the way that the equipment that you're scavenging isn't really used for anything. It's just a way of building sets of cards in your hand to gain VP at the end of the game. It all sounded like a very odd way to utilize the theme and setting that they chose to go with. And so I was like, I'm really not expecting a lot from this. Bad rating, haven't ever heard of it before, rules seem weird, theme seems non-existent. And then the other night, 2 nights ago, we set the game up, me, my wife, and Bryant, and we played through the entire game. I explained the rules to them, so taught them the game, and then we played through the whole game. And it actually ended up being a pretty good time. We all got the hang of the rules really quickly. The game flowed smoothly. The different mechanics actually ended up being more representative and immersive of the theme than I thought they were going to be. Still a bit weird that you're bidding with survivors and then you don't actually lose any survivors. They all just come back to you. So you're really just kind of sending them out to do stuff. And in some way, the more people you send, the more likely you are to achieve that thing versus somebody else achieving it. So that's like what the bidding mechanic is representing. And then they come back to your town. You can lose survivors if you don't have enough beds in your city at the end of a round, and then they have to go back to the sort of bag pool of survivors, random survivors. But it works somehow. It actually does do a good job of giving you the feeling that you're growing the city and that you're gaining these new different buildings. And the game does a really great job of something that a lot of games fall short on, even good games. And that's sticking with specific linguistic choices in the way that the game is sort of referenced and talked about from a rules perspective. Every time we had to pause and check a rule or reference something, the game does a really good job of always referring to its components and its mechanics from an in-theme perspective. So you're not referring to cards in VP, you're referring to structures. You're not referring to the sets of cards you're collecting that are, made up of different types of equipment. You're referring to the equipment itself, a shotgun, grenades, beer, gasoline. You're always referring to things as what they're meant to be represented in the game within the theme. And so it helps keep you immersed even when you get sidetracked by some gameplay or a rules mechanic that you have to look up or explain to somebody because it's a bit clunky and you sort of aren't sure what to do with it. It doesn't completely withdraw you from the game. And then in between those moments when that's happening and you're actually just playing through the game, it's great because you're referring to everything as what it's actually supposed to be. This engineer, that soldier, this worker goes over here and takes the repair action to fix the brewery so that I can get, 2 more beds available to the survivors at the end of the round. This guy, climbs up to the guard tower and takes out 2 marauders, which lowers my tracker on the marauder track so that then I won't take additional damage to my city at the end of the round. Like, it does a really good job of keeping you immersed using that language, and some games fail to do that even though they're really well-designed games. So I actually enjoyed Armageddon a lot more than I thought I would. Still not like the greatest game I own, still probably not going to be, a super high score, but I thought it was going to be like a 4 or a 5, and it turns out it's like a 6 or a 7. I mean, that's pretty good. That's a pretty big difference on a scale out of 10. And again, compared to this over here where I was like, this is going to be an 8 or a 9, and I haven't ranked it, but like personally, I would say I don't like it. So, interesting, right? These are games that I thought I knew everything about them that I needed to know, and then having gone through them and played them, I feel completely opposite in both cases. Didn't think I would, or thought I would really enjoy it, didn't enjoy it, didn't really think I would enjoy it, thought it was pretty good. So with games, you really do have to play them to get a full sort of understanding of how you like them, what you like about them, what you don't. You can't just look at reviews. You can't just hear your friends tell you about them. You can't just read the rule book. As much detail as that might get you about how the game is played, it doesn't get you the feeling of playing the game, the experience of playing it with your friends, with different groups of friends, solo mode if that's available. So yeah, games are an interesting thing. You really do have to play them for yourself to understand whether or not you like them. So anyways, this has been a quick chat about that. Hope you guys are doing well. I should be fine in a couple of days. I've just got like a sore throat and kind of a sinusy thing going on. So I'll be fine in a couple of days. I will have more videos made up with Bryant soon. We actually played a game of Blood Bowl yesterday, or tried to play a game of Blood Bowl yesterday. We think we've got most of the rules down. It was a lot of fun. It was very lopsided, which is fine. I don't mind. I'm playing to have a good time, not to win. But it was very lopsided. Out of my 2 turns, I did nothing because I turned over almost immediately, just by bad luck on rolls. And then both of Bryant's turns were fully played out. So it was like I played for 2 minutes, and then he played for 20 minutes, and then I played for 2 minutes, and then he played for 20 minutes. And then we called it because we had been playing, including setup, for like an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes with rules checking and stuff here and there. And we had only made it through 2 player turns. I had 2, he had 2, which is 1/4 of a half, the 1/8 of the whole game. And so we were like, oh my God, is this really like a 5-hour game? I thought this was going to be a quick thing. It was fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm feeling differently about how often I think I'm going to be able to play it, if it is actually going to be that long. But we liked it. Anyways, we'll do a video on that soon with Bryant. I'll have Bryant come over. We'll talk about that. Yeah, going to try to keep the reviews going every week. Going to try to start getting the videos going with Bryant about wargaming. Maybe the first one will be on Blitz Bowl. Not Blitz Bowl, Blood Bowl. Well, anyways, hope you guys are doing well. I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.